We'd like to welcome you to Vintage Voices launch, the Vintage Voices, Sound of a Thousand Leaves. My name is Deborah Taylor French, and this is
Stacy Alyssa Denick.
Again here.
Stacy Denick.
We're going to share the mic for I'll do the first half, she'll do the second.
And I'd like to be bad cop right now and make sure that everybody checks their cell phones and make sure they're in the quiet, unobnoxious position, which is off. Thank you. And also, I wanted to thank the key volunteers for which make this event happen. Julie Henning was the event chair. Please stand up, Julie. She gave so many hours of work and so much attention to detail, and we really appreciated it. And for the lovely garden setting, we have to give thanks to Linda and Harry Reed. Yippee!
Is Cynthia here? Cynthia? Cynthia Helen Beecher is the editor of this year's anthology. She deserves a resounding round of applause for her dedication and months of labor. For this year's Vintage Voices, Cynthia went above and beyond the call of duty, shaping up and editing the work of 65 Redwood Writers.
Woo! Okay, all right.
Linda, are you there? Okay, all right. I want to say just a few words about Cynthia. Cynthia, you may or may not know, runs the Literary Cafe at a monthly event in Healdsburg. She's an active and supporter of Redwood Writers. She's lived for 9 years in Central and Southern Africa, and she has nonfiction, photographs, and poetry in print. She's also the author of Rainmaker's Dog. Our first selection of reading will be John Abbott, and his piece is on page 120.
So I guess that's my cue.
That's you.
Hey, thank you. This is called The Jumbo. One day very soon, the boy will be known as Louis's little shadow. He follows a few wary steps behind his grandfather, who is mowing the lawn. The old woman at her stove in the house across the way watches them. The grandfather has a loud, frightening machine with a grass catcher. The boy has a plastic mower with colored balls that pop like popcorn as the wheels turn. When his grandfather pauses to adjust the choke and wipe his brow, the boy does the same. I get so tickled watching him follow Louis around the yard, the old woman will tell the boy's grandmother in church. She will shift closer in the pew, soliciting conversation before Mass starts. Just like Louis's little shadow, soon the name sticks. The car dealer who sold his grandfather the '58 Plymouth will use the name when he sees the two of them walking to the post office to get the mail. So will the clerk in the grocery store, who has known his mother since high school. The boy's aunts and uncles will hear the name repeated at the dinner table and frown. Today, it would be odd to think of him as anyone's little shadow. He is tall and stocky and quick on his feet. He has a wife and child of his own. He lives in a comfortable house in the rolling hills north of San Francisco with a hammock, a hot tub, and an apple tree in the backyard. But sometimes when he looks in the mirror, when he stares into his blue eyes, he can see his grandfather looking back at him. And he can see the sickness he inherited, the illness that will delineate his life and drive him to suicide. Louis's little shadow can see it all. This is his story. It is also his grandfather's story. It is his grandfather who will pass on the gene to him. His grandfather who will show no emotion when his eldest son is killed in the Battle of the Bulge, whose stoicism will cauterize him from love, who will be given shock treatments when he stops eating, talking, sleeping. In a strange way, that makes Louis's little shadow even more faithful to his grandfather because the sickness makes them more alike. Although the old man would not have the words to describe his feelings with the candor and specificity that his grandson does, Louis's little shadow knows that each would understand what the other was talking about. The boy and his grandfather are inseparable. They will pick cherries together from the 2 tall trees in the backyard. They will carry dinner scraps to the compost heap in the garden and linger among the fragrance of peppers and tomatoes and earthy, upturned loam. They will pump water in the well, carve their initials in the oak tree, and mow the lawn. On the best days, they will climb the jumbo. They will cross the railroad tracks to where the slag heap of red shale rises several hundred feet in the air, the remnants of a coal mine that shut down decades ago. To the boy, it is stupendous, vaguely ominous, and other in the soft, fluid contours of the prairie that surrounds it. The footing is tricky, so Louie's little shadow holds Louie's strong, calloused hand. When they reach the summit, still holding hands, the boy will breathe in the silent vistas, the panoramic view of cornfields and farmhouses. Although he will be too young to comprehend it, the vision revealed atop the jumbo will be his first undiluted impression of the sublime, the first stirrings of his artistic sensibility. With the vision graven on his mind's eye, he will search for similar images of transcendence the rest of his life, if only to surrender to them. Thank you.
Mary Lynn Archibald, page 154.
Thank you, Deborah. Now for something completely different. This is from my upcoming memoir, show-off, called Terpsichore at Rest. And Terpsichore was the Greek goddess of the dance. Come right on in and take off your clothes, honey. Mrs. B's raspy voice issued from somewhere behind a billowing cloud of blue smoke atop the head of a mysterious figure in a cheap flowered nylon wrapper and stained powder blue terry cloth scuffies. A faded calico apron barely spanned her large body, for to my relief, it was a she, its pockets overflowing with pincushions, ribbons, and several half-empty packets of Camels. This apparition, I discovered, was the person I had come to see. The smoky haze around her head cleared momentarily to reveal gray hair dyed a rather startling combination of colors. Red, orange, and blue vied with purple and platinum blonde. No one color predominated. A sagging armchair held a disordered pile of sequins and ruffles. A flurry of netting, beadings, and bows spilled from open drawers, wound around chair legs, and cascaded from wire hangers in untidy rows on dress racks made of galvanized pipe. An ancient singer held a frothy confection of satin and tulle pinioned to its needle. A large black tomcat stretched, yawned, and hopped to the floor, scattering sequins. Stale cigarette smoke, cat pee, and bourbon scented the overheated air. What was I doing there? The ad in the San Francisco Chronicle had read, "Dancers needed for SF chorus line, experience necessary, some travel." I had auditioned 2 weeks before my visit to Mrs. B, and now I was to be fitted for a costume for a dance number to St. Louis blues. Gripping her cigarette between clenched teeth and squinting against the smoke, she rummaged through the drawers of the old sewing machine, pulling out what looked like flesh-colored shoulder pads. "Here we are. These here cookies should work on you." I looked puzzled, so to demonstrate, she clapped the strange things to her chest, where her breasts had doubtless been before they'd headed to her waist. "So let's see what we got here." I kept a wary eye on her cigarette as she approached me. An ash lengthened, quivered, and followed its predecessor onto her bosom unheeded, scattering tiny sparks. Suddenly she lunged at me and stuffed the cookies into the top of my skimpy costume. I was too startled to react. I looked down and stared in disbelief at my newfound pulchritude. Thanks to Mrs. B's cookies, I had boobs. Lovely, rounded mounds protruded provocatively from my chest. I knew what it felt like to be Marilyn Monroe. On my way to the door, I glanced at the walls. Photos, old and faded, featured some impressive stars. Most were signed, "To the Gilded Lily with Gratitude," or "I owe it all to you, babe." One whole wall displayed a scantily clad, young, voluptuous platinum blonde. Well, what do you think? Mrs. B placed a large hand on each abundant hip and executed a flawless grind. I used to wow 'em in a gold lame number that I'd slither out of a little at a time till I was down to pasties and a gold G-string. Really? Yeah, I worked at big cities for 15 years. And I woke up in LA one morning and realized everything had started to slip, if you know what I mean. But show business gets in your blood, you know. I nodded. I knew. Already, I knew.
Yes, Elsbeth Benton, and that's page 56. And readers do watch. There's a lot of cording up here as you come up. Step over it carefully. Especially this reader. Thank you. Right there. You can't always see it. Let me see it up there.
Poem, bath progression. Steaming richness of a bath, an island of luxe, calm, et volupté. As a newborn, my mother told me, I was bathed each morning by firelight. Knowing this is like a secret bank account for me. As a young teen, on weekend evenings, I was a movie star, lolling for hours in Woolworth's lilac mist. Learning to bathe my firstborn, I was stressed. I bathed her in the kitchen sink. Sometimes she cried. Once, she slithered from my hands, but seemed none the worse. We both gained confidence and came to trust each other. With my last born, baths were a joy from the beginning, still in the kitchen sink. Now, sometimes, my lover and I bathe together, fragrant masses of opalescent foam, rough washcloth against my skin, epiphany.
Jan Bodie, page 172.
My reading begins on page 173, second paragraph from the bottom. I was young, a naive white girl when we met. Eddie was older, streetwise and black. During our first year of forming a friendship, Eddie visited me at my apartment in Boston's Brighton neighborhood. We often walked along Commonwealth Ave and sometimes along the riverbank, talking but never touching. Touching was a sight most people were not ready to see. If looks could kill, homicide records would show that each day we were together, each day we were together in public was the date of both our deaths. Racism in Boston exploded in the 1960s, as it did in Selma and too many other places. It was ugly and terrifying, with hateful words and faces that stung as sharp as the flesh torn open and the bones that were broken. The 1960s was an era of despairing grief and heightened joy, a time when despicable behaviors lived side by side with soaring human spirits. I stumbled into the folk music scene and was heartened by songwriters and singers who dared to tell their truth. My battered soul was renewed by the voices of Joan Baez and Bob Dylan, Odetta and Phil Oakes at the Club 47 near Harvard University in Cambridge, and the Newport Folk Festival in Rhode Island, many other gathering places for people struggling to reclaim a sip of joy and a semblance of sanity in a world gone mad. Throughout that decade, I wrote a twice-monthly column called Coffee House Theater, reviewing plays held in church basements and coffee houses, plays that had a substance and morality the so-called legitimate theater carefully avoided. I will never forget the stark stillness after one performance. Curtain calls were complete and applause silenced, yet the entire audience remained glued to their seats, barely breathing. No one knew why, but we all waited, alert and vigilant, sensing a darkness as we sat under the house lights. Finally, a lone figure returned to the stage. He was as somber as the audience, choking on his tears, trying to catch his breath. An eternity seemed to pass before he spoke the unspeakable. A few hours ago, Martin Luther King Jr. was shot to death. I was in my mid-20s, growing up amidst wrenching confusion. Hope rose from Kennedy and King, love-ins, communes, and nonviolent protests. Sorrow fell from tear gas and wooden bats, boys younger than I dying in Vietnam, whites cursing blacks and blacks cursing back. Eddie was at my side as I grew up. Eddie, big and strong, handsome and solid, was a guy who could read a person in a minute, see dishonesty and fear, connect with humor and heart. He was funny, wise and sensitive, loyal and trustworthy, but not a saint. Most of the time, Eddie, my first love in this lifetime, was able to control what some called his imperfections. When control failed, the cracks surfaced to reveal his character. Eddie lost his temper when one person deliberately harmed another. His generosity included giving the rent money to a friend in need without hesitation. He cried without shame when an animal was in pain. In fact, Eddie loved all animals more than some of the people he met, the ones who had the talk without the walk. It was easy to love Eddie, to invite him into my heart without holding back. Thank you.
Ronald L. Davis, page 32.
Bummer. Most of us would have considered it a minor mistake, but God had always been a perfectionist. It was a teensy-weensy mistake, really. 2 digits transposed near the end of a long series of numbers. It happened 15 billion years ago, but the ramifications were just becoming apparent. The universe was unstable and would just continue to accelerate apart. Damn, God said. Now I have to start all over. He stamped his foot, and trillions of suns were extinguished. Then he reached out his hand and squeezed the whole mess back into a singularity. And right in the middle of the morning commute.
Tomoko Harada Ferguson, and it's page 13 if you have your anthologies.
This is called My New Red Bicycle. Its extra long fire engine red frame of thick steel is not feathery light like the kind sought after by Lance Armstrong. Yet it suits me, mother of 3 children. The bike is solid, unwavering under the weight of my cargo. Behind me, the bike stretches back far enough for 2 of my precious children to climb aboard. In spite of the bike's single speed, I pump my legs, stand if I have to, and I fly. Days before Halloween, my daughter wears her new Frog Princess costume to take a ride. We coast down a hill, and she laughs and yells, "Wee, look at my dress." Glancing at our shadow racing alongside, I see her shadow's dress fluttering in the wind. "We are witches flying on my broom," I say. I joke that it is my midlife crisis vehicle, red, fast, enough. I built the cargo rack, painted it, screwed in handles, crafted my children's seat cushions from foam and oilcloth in a pattern that sings Jimmy Buffett songs, white flowers and strawberries splashing into swimming pool blue. I would sleep with it, this bike, if I could, like I did with my brand new pair of red shoes when I was a kid. I ride my red bicycle everywhere. This morning I pedal my 2 youngest to school. The wind flies through my hair, brushes against my cheeks. I take in gulps of cold air. Morning chill grips my hands, and my hands grip the handlebars. My daughter and son scream, "We are going so fast. This is so fun, right?" This is so fun.
Cher, Phillips, Gamard, page 1.
And I'd like to thank Cynthia and Redwood Writers for this opportunity to be published. Childhood on 2 pages. When my family relocated from Oakland to a small country town east of San Diego, I was 5 and my brother was 2. Our old Chevy carried us south on Highway 101. Why were we leaving? Nobody told me. Fear curled up next to me on the back seat and traveled with us. When we moved into the country house where my father had grown up, my mother yanked out all the cactus plants in the front yard. Who would ever want those stupid plants, she complained with conviction. Why your grandmother liked these, I'll never know. She could have had roses, but no, she had to have cactus. She made it sound like a moral deficiency. When my brother and I played together, it was always outside, away from the house. The big open field behind our wood frame house gave us permission to explore. We spent hours pretending to be cowboys, riding on our bikes. We watched big, shiny black beetles make lines in the dry dirt. Everyone called them stink bugs, but we liked them and would never, ever think of squishing them. My father, in one of his rages, threw my mother's glass coffee maker to the kitchen floor. It shattered. My childhood shattered with it. When we brought our collie dog home, she slept on my bed. I listened to her breathing and ran my hand along her soft golden fur, feeling as close to safe as I ever got. When my brother won the local hula hoop contest, he even got his picture in the local paper. His technique was impressive. The other kids gyrated like crazy. My brother just stood there, hardly moving, keeping the ring going for hours with a slight flick of one hip. He was good at staying calm, yet getting the job done. When I finally got a horse, Sunny, my own Palomino mare, after years of pleading, I could escape the darkness inside my home, inside myself. I rode wide open trails through the sunshine. My father got a night job at the local radio station. My mother treated my brother and me to hamburgers from the A&W stand down on the main drag. She even let us play rock and roll. My brother and I would twist and shout, laughing like anything. My mother didn't dance with us, but her face relaxed, her eyes got bright, and she grinned. When I was 17, I secretly read Cosmopolitan. I thought of myself as a sophisticate, with black mascara on my eyelashes and my hair piled high in a bouffant. My family visited my grandparents back in Oakland, and we drove across the bay to see the sights in San Francisco. On the cable car, my brother and I sat as far away from our parents as we could. "Hey, kids," our father yelled across the aisle. "We don't have anything like this back in old El Cajon, do we?" I wanted to die, just curl up and die. When my older cousin visited us, he was smart and funny, a natural storyteller. He was the one who let me in on a secret. There was a magical place called college, and smart people had it all to themselves. It sounded great to me, the passport to another life. I wanted in.
Osha Bell Hayden, page 189.
Okay, this has been heavily edited to fit within a 4-minute slot, so don't follow along. It won't work. Okay. Gargoyles and rainbows. If it hadn't been for that strange mix of rainbows and gargoyles, it would not have happened. But the young golden-haired woman looks nonchalant as she leans over the stone ramparts to better see the view from the tower of the Notre Dame Cathedral. That one looks like a flying monkey from The Wizard of Oz, Haley thinks, regarding the gargoyle perched nearest her on the tower. She admires the way the sculptor has captured the qualities of both pensive man and ferocious beast. According to legend, gargoyles serve as guardians for Our Lady of Paris. If so, Haley wonders, were they also meant to guard the ancient ruins of the Roman temple that is buried beneath Our Lady's Cathedral? Haley sniffs the air. Though the shower has passed, she can still smell the fresh scent of rain. A blackbird swoops into view. Haley follows its flight as it swerves down and glides above the river. The reflections on the water remind Haley of the vast expanse of ocean that separates her from her life and friends back home. Remembering how she had to sit on her bulging suitcase to get it closed in time to rush to the airport, she smiles. Silly girl, trying to stuff home into a suitcase. She raises her eyes from the glistening water of the Seine. There, fresh as a kiss upon the sky, a shimmering rainbow gleams. Tilting back her head, she drinks it in, this potent cocktail of rainbows and winged gargoyles, spiked with the heady Parisian air. C'est belle, n'est-ce pas? Haley's silent celebration is disrupted by a friendly voice. The man has a wiry build and deep brown eyes that seem to dance above chiseled cheekbones in an otherwise ordinary face. He shoots her a wide smile and gestures toward the rainbow. In spite of her efforts to contain it, a smile threatens to erupt on her face, and she can't resist responding, Oui, c'est magnifique. Her policy since arriving in Paris has been not to talk to men she doesn't know. She's come to study art and does not wish to be distracted. She might be 25, but this is not Gidget Goes to Paris, and she is not here to be swept off her feet by some romantic Frenchman. Now the bright rose and gold hues of the sunset are adding their magic to the brew, and she can't restrain the smile. You speak English? Yes. I'm Bernard, and you are? Haley. It's a pleasure to meet you. He points to the sparkling juggling batons that protrude from the knapsack on her back. You are a juggler, he asks. Tilting her head, she replies, I like to defy gravity. Bernard's animated descriptions of local juggling acts make Haley laugh. Tonight, it feels good to have some company. The fellow seems harmless and friendly. When the sky darkens, Haley turns to leave. I have to go now. It's okay, I'm going too, says Bernard. He follows her down the steep stairwell to the street and keeps the conversation going as they emerge from the tower. Haley, would you like to have a cup of coffee? I know a nice cafe where we can sit outside. It's so beautiful the night. Coffee sounds good, she says. What harm can it do to have some company on this gorgeous night? Their conversation leads them past the cathedral grounds and across a bridge to the left bank. They take seats in the cozy outdoor cafe and order coffee. As they sip their drinks, he tells her about the street performers in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. They do a juggling act that is magnifique, eh? You won't believe it. They are very good and funny, too. You have to see it. I can take you. It's just a couple of stops on le métro. I'd love to see them, Haley says. Haley's been hungry for artistic conversation. After all, it's the art of Paris that has lured her to travel so far from home. Are you staying with friends in Paris? Bernard asks. No, I'm here alone. Haley savors the last flaky bite of her almond croissant. When she looks up, she notices a slight twitching of a muscle in Bernard's face and a tremble in the hand holding his coffee. His confident smile turns to a grimace, and his face is crumbling into a distorted reflection of itself. It's as though the face he's presenting is shattering piece by piece before her eyes. In spite of his efforts to maintain it, Bernard's mask is dissolving, and by some strange means she is witnessing it. If you want to hear the rest, you have to get the book.
Carol Horn, and it's page 48.
About right, yes. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. This first haiku is for today, not in the book. These writers read, telling all that must be told, enlighten the world. Nothing stops current. Starfish grips like a lover. Rock is always rock. Stepping stones still wet. Spring is yet a distant dream. I kiss the bare earth. Thank you.
Jeannie Gesitis, and it's page 92.
This is Charlie James in the manure business. By the time I turned 7, curly-headed Charlie James had punched me in the stomach, pelted me with mud balls, and taught me the word collision. My nemesis and my Svengali, all wrapped up in one person. Charlie loomed bigger, 1 year older, and a lot stronger. My tiny green tricycle never fully recouped from the collision lesson, but I loved knowing that powerful new word. Some said Charlie had a mean streak, but I loved knowing that word. Some called Charlie a bully, but I saw another side of him. He was smart, and if he thought nobody was watching, he could be generous and even sensitive. He was my sometime friend. Sometimes when his brothers weren't around, Charlie would don his coonskin cap and sneak me into their tree fort. He helped me up the shaky ladder and warned me of splinters. Inside the forbidden tree fort smelled of eucalyptus and sweaty boys. Charlie showed me their cache of comic books hidden in a secret little closet, Tarzan and Superman mostly, a delicious, manly change from my little Lulu, Wendy the Witch, and Katie Keene. One day, coming back from the tree fort, Charlie gallantly held the barbed wire up while I crawled under. I cut my wrist on a barb and watched warm blood flow over my arm. He used his red sweater to sop up the blood and stop the bleeding. I couldn't even see it anymore. My blood disappeared into his sweater. He was a regular whiz kid. On spring evenings, Charlie, my friend Lisa, and I sat on the green hill above my house and looked out at the orangey-pink sunsets, a backdrop to the stark geometry of the Carquinez Bridge. Lavender and peach streaks layered onto the gray waters, creating a living watercolor. We sucked on sour grass, and Charlie showed us how to twist the grass into whistles while we made plans for grass slides and ground forts. Charlie was full of promises. On bright summer days, we sat on the golden slope by my house and looked across the roofs of Crockett, past the top of the C&H sugar refinery and across the Carquinez Bridge. When I was 5, Charlie pointed his grimy finger to the horizon and said, "Those yellow hills are made of butterscotch and gumdrop trees, and someday my father will take us over there and we can eat all we want. And then we'll go to Pumpkin Center and ride in little boats that go in a circle. They have ponies there too." My little heart expanded with joy and anticipation, waiting for that day. Charlie was an entrepreneur. He watched my tow-headed little sister and me pick wild sweet peas from the hill and sell them for a nickel a bouquet. The genteel ladies down the street loved our pink, fragrant bouquets for their tables. Charlie decided that we would open a business and make real money. He would be the foreman like his dad. He discovered, through sheer nosiness and guileless interrogation, that those same ladies who prized their large gardens actually paid money for cow plops. They called it fertilizer. Our hill was loaded with the stuff. Charlie's brain must have done a little happy dance because he threw up his arms and said, "We're going into the manure business, and we're going to make big money, maybe as much as $5. Neither Charlie nor I became business people. He grew up to be a good basketball player and a wealthy psychiatrist. I grew up to write the story, and the rest of it is in The Sound of 1,000 Leaves.
Leanne Lindsay, and she's on page 29.
This is Deadly Deeds, an excerpt from a futuristic thriller. Scientists, biologists, and war strategists and Wiccans convene to prevent global genocide in a post-apocalyptic world after nukes penetrate Earth's atmosphere. Genetics and scientific researchers Jen and Jared discovered dangerous truths behind the origins of aging and disease. Their attempts to escape earthly and unearthly beings propel them across multiple universes. The two men collide and wrestle each other to the ground. The box at the entrance to the lab begins to radiate heat. In moments, it will detonate. They must withdraw or die, yet both are willing to fight to the death to capture the deciphering key. They've given chase to the key's capture for the past year, and in the final struggle, only one will attain ultimate glory. They fall hard against the wall. Derek reaches inside his jacket. Josh hyperventilates at the sight of the gun. He looks over Derek's shoulder. The bomb is radiating imminent death if the gun being pointed at him doesn't do the job first. Derek whirls, trips, and falls face down. A blinding flash splits the room. Josh lunges for the table, grabbing the key, just as he is beamed out of the lab. Derek shoots. The radiating box goes off, ending the chase for Derek. On board the hovering science vessel, Josh nuzzles the cheek and the neck of his smiling savior. Alicia has got him back with the key. It holds genetic coding that will make it possible to alter degeneration, reverse aging, and eradicate disease in humans. Soon they will go underground and retest their theories and hypotheses. Alicia says, we'll be able to stay hidden at least 100 years as we retrofit the population we saved. Her smile fades. If only we could have saved more from those countries on Earth. I know, sweetheart. I feel the same. Josh hugs her. At least we were able to transverse across parallel universes to Uthma, those we could save. You were the one, after all, to find that livable planet in the 20th quadrant and over 1,000 bubble universes. He lifts her face to his. They shouldn't be able to find us in our new universe, on our new planet. We'll be able to work in peace. Alicia swivels at the console to set their course. They have to transverse fast. Derek's kind will be on their heels nearly at the speed of light. Josh sits down beside her, his fingers flying over the controls as they get ready to ship. All the facilities have been tested numerous times over the past year and should hide us from the alien mocks. Solar, wind, rain, and ocean wave electricity. Generation systems on the new planet are over capacity and operating without any major problems. Alicia grins as the ship begins to vibrate. A vibration that will bend space and time and allow their ship to cross universes in rapid time. And one day, Josh, we will fight back.
Gail Larek, and her piece is on page 6. Thank you, Cynthia, for bringing this book together so beautifully. Ohio men. Ohio men never wanted to be boys. They strutted right out of childhood, drove tractors when they were 8 and cars when they were 12, got their own at 16, best if it were a 55 Chevy,
turquoise and white, with the fins of a shark. Jerry Green, who got his black Mercury on his 17th birthday, drove it into the side of the bridge that evening and went without wheels until he got a job at the creamery. They lent their basketball jackets, numbers on the back, to girls in study hall who pretended to be cold. They left birthday parties after the hot dogs and before the games, went to Amy's for strawberry pie. They aimed everything at graduation, when their lives would begin. They went to work, baling hay or digging trenches for new septic tanks, realizing that graduation wasn't the beginning, but the end of their dreams. They walked ruts along the edges of their territory, the small worlds they'd made. The ruts, too deep to cross, became the boundaries of their vision. They worked hard, married, had kids, everything a good man in Ohio was expected to do, and wondered if it was any use at all to tell their sons what they'd discovered about life. Probably not.
Charles T. Markey, and it's page 146.
Thanks for adding the T. Big thanks to everyone who put this on. Hills Like Brown Camels, a tribute to Hemingway. They listened to Tim McGraw singing Love Like You Were Dying. When it finished, Sue said, "That's one of my favorites." Will nodded, "Mine too." She said, "We got a lot in common." He shifted in his seat and checked the mirrors. "Yeah. Do you really think we have a lot in common, or are you just saying that? Why don't you believe me when I say things? I already said we did." Almost too softly for him to hear, she said, "I just wanted to know for sure." Sue stared out the passenger window of their pickup at the pines and scrub oaks on California's rolling brown hills. A few clouds floated above them like dabs of white frosting. He said, "It's for sure. We have lots in common. We always have. Are you satisfied?" "You don't have to be so surly." She couldn't help the resentment in her voice. "I'm not surly, goddammit. I'm just trying to figure out what you're asking me all these questions today." The smell of degreasing soap on Will's hands from the morning tune-up on the truck lingered in the cab. She waited until they passed a bumpy part of the road so that the toolbox mounted on the back of the pickup stopped rattling, then said, "Other people have had this done." "So? I mean, it's not very serious." He flashed back. "It's serious to me. I won't be the same." He paused. "What makes you think it ain't serious?" "They said it was just a small cut." "Sure, small to you. You're not getting cut." "You know what I mean. It's not like having a baby." He slowed down for the right turn onto Highway 20 to Marysville. He glanced at her, then back at the road, and said, "I suppose." "What?" she said. He rubbed the back of his neck. "I suppose I know what you mean about getting cut." She saw him wince at the word cut. After a few minutes, they passed the Penn Valley intersection. She said, "It won't make any difference, you know, between us." "Oh," he said, "what if it does make a difference?" "It won't. Easy for you to say." "They said it wouldn't make a difference. We asked, and I'll still care for you just as much, honey." "Sure," he said, sarcasm twisting his voice, "but there's a part of me you won't be able to care for anymore." He slowed for a car making a turn, then sped up and said, "I just don't like the idea of it." Before she could say anything, he reached over and turned the radio up to hear Joe Nichols saying, "Tequila makes her clothes fall off." As soon as the song finished, he turned off the radio. He said, "What'd you do that for?" "So we can talk." "I don't want to talk." I think the road, both hands on the steering wheel, while the pickup engine hummed like 100 busy bees, and the silence sat between them like a tall gray wall. They passed the turnoff to Brownsville, and she said, "You never told me that you didn't like the idea of it." "Well," he said, "I don't. I thought we decided it was easier for you to do than for me, and it costs less." He said, "Yeah, we did." Down in the flatlands, they were passing ranch homes. Tree-lined ravines divided the land. Turkey vultures circled overhead. She rested her head against the window. "The hills look like brown camels," she said. Camels, he laughed. I reached down and turned the radio up, just in time to hear the end of Strawberry Wine. She said, "That's Deanna Carter." "I know." She said, "You don't have to laugh when I said the hills look like brown camels." "Sorry, slipped out, didn't mean a thing." "Are you changing your mind?" "What?" he said, his tone incredulous. She repeated slowly, "Are you changing your mind?" I didn't say anything about changing my mind. "I know, but you said you didn't like the idea of it." "I don't like the idea of a lot of things, mucking out the barn, fixing the septic, castrating, but I still do them. We have to do a lot of things that we don't like the idea of, and I don't change my mind about them." She continued, "This isn't a chore." "I know. Have you thought about not doing it?" He pulled into the medical center and parked in a space, turned to her and said, "Of course I thought about not doing it." He turned the key, the engine died, and the music stopped. Thank you.
Stacy Alyssa Denick, and turn to page 138 if you've got a copy.
I'm going to sit down.
Tall trouble. Dear Nordstrom's folks, I feel it is my duty as a longtime customer to point out an unfortunate mistake in Nordy's world-famous customer service. This omission is particularly remiss at this juncture in America's history when all eyes are turned to the White House, hoping to catch a glance of the stately, the inspiring Michelle Obama. Nordstrom has salespeople wrestling each other to help customers. We can return anything, even stuff you don't sell, like tires. You have petite sizes, size 12 AA shoes, maternity formals, 48 triple D bras, tall men's sizes, but not one single tall women's item, even though the First Lady is 5 foot 11 inches tall. I strolled into Nordstrom's last week, idealistically confident I'd find stylish pants that weren't belly-bearing capris because, frankly, I haven't done nearly enough Pilates lately. But no such luck. Every pair of slacks ended well above my ankles, bringing back the time in 7th grade when I wore red, white, and blue floral overalls to school, and Amy Rathbone followed me around all day yelling, "Where's the flood?" and "Who ordered the plumber?" I realize you offer such things as alterations. Petites can fork over a few bucks for hemming, whining the entire time, but even the most expert alteration department can't create 6 inches of new pant leg from thin air. As you've gathered by now, I'm tall. I'm the first to admit that I'm way past the gosh it's so great to be tall height of 5 foot 8 or 9. At 6'1", I'm well into the outsized, lonely at the top giantess category. I swear, the next time someone asks me, "How's the weather up there?" I'm going to say raining and spit. "How tall are you?" they ask. Medium-sized men who are used to being taller than women are the worst. "How tall are you?" they ask, chins jutting in challenge. Sometimes I say 5 foot 13 just to mess with them. Invariably, they sputter up at my nostrils. "That can't be right, I'm 6'4". My dignity requires me to be moderately well-dressed. Put yourself in my 34-inch inseam jeans for a moment. Imagine my joy when I discovered a tall women's clothing search option on the Nordstrom's website. See me sitting straight and proud as I enter my size. Watch my shoulders hunch when the computer belched forth 0 matches. This is just outright cruelty. I'll deal with it, of course, as I've dealt with the other disappointments, like low-slung jeans. Talk about your wedgie makers. Isn't it bad enough that we tall gals can't raise our arms over our heads to hail a cab without finding our shirts hovering just above our bras? I hope you aren't some gum-chewing, cell phone-checking, barely out of high school kid, the kind that has ADD and always stares at me like, "Yeah, hurry it up, you massive old bat, so I can check who's tagged me on Facebook." Women of maturity, I assume you're a woman since we hold down 95% of the worst jobs, which includes yours in customer service, are more sympathetic listeners. And sympathetic ears are what I need because I'm about to tell you a freakishly tall woman's most humiliating clothing issue. Oh, I see I'm out of time, though, so you'll have to buy the book.
Very nice.
And we're going to take a 20-minute break so that you can have plenty of time to get autographed copies for all your shopping needs.